Hi, everyone. It is Danielle Marie from the One Realty here in Austin, Texas, coming to you live today. Today, we are going to talk about the buyer's rep agreement. Okay, that is one of those agreements now, especially with the NAR settlement and the DOJ, that buyers have to sign in order to view a property. This is just based on all of the new, the big settlement lawsuit. If you haven't heard about that, that's a whole nother conversation. But in order for a buyer to go see a property now, they need to sign what's called a buyer's representation agreement. So, okay, normally you used to be able to go see a house, talk to your agent, figure out if that relationship was working for you. If the relationship didn't work for you, you were able to just go on about your merry way and not worry about it. Now, in order to see that house, you have to sign the document. Well, that's kind of scary because it's a legal document and you are agreeing to pay a commission. So what I want to do is I want to first off explain a few things on this document before you get into signing one. And then also if you've signed one and let's say your relationship with your agent is not going well, we'll talk about a different form to get you out of that agreement. So without further ado, first, if you like this video, if you like it, subscribe, follow me just for more tips on the Austin real estate market. So with that, we are going to pull up and we're going to check out what is called the buyer's representation. And I'm not going to go through the full document. Instead, what we're really going to focus on is some of the things that you need to just kind of be aware of when you're signing it with another agent. So let me pull this up. And this is called the buyer's representation agreement. So this document right here is what you sign in order for them to show you the houses and take you through houses. So I'm going to pull this over so that I can follow along with you. And we're going to do this real quick, single page, and we are going to get rid of this sidebar. Make it a little bigger for you. So, okay. So first and foremost, the beginning of this is going to show who the parties of the contract are. The very first thing you are going to have to pay attention to, and it skipped ahead on me. I love technology sometimes, is you're going to see this area. And this term is going to say the term of your agreement. So you're probably going to get this via DocuSign or some other online source versus like a hard copy to sign. The first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to see how long you're going to be locked into this agreement for. And this is your agreement to work with that other agent, whoever that buyer's agent is. Typically, like for myself, it's a 6 months. And it's not that I think it's going to take 6 months to get you under contract, but it might just take some time. We might find the most amazing house and we might get you under contract within the first few months. And let's say we go and do an inspection period. At the end of the day, my job is to get you into the best house for you. If all of a sudden during an inspection period, we find out all this information that maybe changes your decision, my goal is to either one, negotiate for you and get you money to fix those things during inspection, or B, have a legal avenue to get you out. So this kind of builds in time, especially if you're taking your time looking and you want to make sure you have the best home possible. So first and foremost, take a look at what these dates are. I'd say 6 months is very reasonable, but some people might want to shorten. You might want to do it shorter than that. At the same time, we can do an amendment. We can do amendment to extend this agreement as well. So don't feel like you have to trap yourself into a year-long agreement or anything like that. The next big part, and this is kind of where this all comes into, is this is going to say what your fee is that you have to pay that listing agent or your buyer's agent, the agent that's representing you. Now, a lot of times it might be paid through the seller, and I have a whole video on that. So if you actually want to understand the breakdown of the fees and also how you can get a seller to pay for it, I have a whole separate video on that. Feel free to reach out in the comments and I'll send you the link to that. Or you can also find it on YouTube. But at the same time, we're not going to go down that avenue because that avenue is a very long one. The next part, this is for your representation agreement, meaning if you think you might have to break it at some point in time, or if you're already in one, this is what you need to be looking at. And also, if you have a comment at any point in time while I'm going through this, feel free to just reach out and write in the comments if you have a comment, and we can kind of go from there. But over here, the next thing that we're going to look at is we are going to look at what is called your protection period. So this protection period, what this is this is going to essentially be the period that the agent has gone and they've showed you houses. And let's say you decide that you want to terminate the agreement early. Or let's say you get to the end of that 6 month or that 4 month, whatever it's signed for. So what this is going to allow that agent to do is they're protected because they showed you those houses during that time. They're protected from you going under contract right after your contract ends or if you terminate it. So this is really, really important. Let's say if someone shows you an amazing house and they love it, and all of a sudden they say, oh, I'm just going to do a deal one-on-one with the seller. Well, what this does is if you were to go and you were to do an agreement with that seller directly during that protection period, the agent can come back and get their commission for it. With that, this is where an agent, if we talk about terminating an agreement, the agent's going to have to list all of those homes that they've showed you in that termination so that you are aware of it. So it's not later than 10 days after this agreement ends. The broker may send written notice identifying the properties called to the client's attention during this agreement. If a client or a relative of the client agrees to acquire the property during the protection period, client will pay the broker upon closing the amount the broker would have received if this agreement were still in effect. So essentially, if you go and you buy the house, this is what you have to pay the agent. And that's based on what this broker fee is right here. The third thing that you're going to really need to pay attention to, and a lot of people don't even, they kind of zoom through it, they see it, but there is an area called special provisions right here. It's area 17 of your buyer's rep agreement. In this area 17 of your buyer's rep agreement, you might have agreed upon with your agent that you will pay X amount of dollars if you terminate this early. You might be paying a certain amount for so many houses. Now, there's a whole other agreement that's going on right now. It's a short form agreement of the buyer tenant representation. We're not going to go down that route right now. But if you're in this one, and if you have an agent right now, you need to also make sure you read what is in 17. I've heard horror stories where people have a crazy amount that they have in here. You need to read it. So before you sign any buyer's representation, make sure to go and read 17. Make sure there's not a fee, or if there is a fee, make sure to have that negotiation or that conversation up front. So this right here is the buyer's rep agreement. Now, we didn't go into all the details of it. I wanted to just show you these items because these items will be the items that will come into contact or come into play when and if you were to terminate agreement. So we need to look at that. Now, the next thing that we're going to do, and once again, feel free if you have questions or comments to just put them in the chat and then I can answer them from here. So the next thing that we are going to take a look at, and I'm going to share my screen here, is actually what is the termination agreement. And so this also is for Austin, or this is for Texas. So if you are in a different state, this might be completely different. Then again, you might have something similar, but hey, if you're watching here, feel free to continue to watch and I can connect you with an agent in your state as well, if that might be of interest to you. So this is called the termination of buyer's representation agreement. So first off, this is going to say the date that you entered the agreement on. So whenever that was from that very first one, this is going to say that the parties that terminate the agreement on this. Now, it has to be a mutual termination at the sense, but you're agreeing to terminate. What I would highly, highly, highly suggest, if you want to terminate the agreement with an agent and you have that conversation, hey, I want to terminate. I'm at this point in time, we're kind of in different directions. Me as an agent, I don't want to represent someone and work with someone that feels forced to be in it. I don't want you to be forced in the relationship. If you don't want to work with me, great. But at the end of the day, I want you to realize that you are in this agreement, not with the agent. You're actually in this agreement with their brokerage. So if that agent says, I don't want to terminate, I'm not allowing you to terminate, and it's going to hold you hostage, that's when you can step it up a notch. And that's actually when you can go and you can talk to the broker. So you will also receive a form. It's called an IABS, Information About Brokerage Services. It should be on all of your listing documents. It will say who the broker of record is for that company that you can go out and you can reach out to. The next part of this termination is, so when you agree to terminate, you may have been working with this person for a long time and you might just be agreeing. I mean, there could be multiple reasons to terminate, but there might be a fee for the services that you're going to agree to terminate for. If it's not in your original contract, you don't necessarily have to bring, I say, a fee. But with that being said, I should caveat this. I am not an attorney. This is not legal advice. I'm just giving you general information and general knowledge. This is not legal advice. So if you need to, also please go and consult attorney. I'm going to say most realtors, there's probably a few of them that do have their, I know have their attorneys, but for the most part, they're not. So we as agents cannot give you legal advice. So this fee right here, this is where I was talking about in special provisions. They might have a fee right here that you have to place in here. Now, this next part, number 2, if on or before blank date, client agrees to purchase or lease a property by oral or written agreement, the client will pay a broker at the time the property is purchased or leased a fee equal to, it's going to give that fee. So if we go back to the buyer's rep agreement, and if you're just joining us, you can go back and rewatch this. If you go back to see what that percentage was, so on that buyer's representation, there's a percentage of the commission. It's going to say what that commission amount is. And so whether it's 3, 2, whatever you negotiate, that's what's going to come in this thing. It's going to say, hey, you're going to have to pay this amount on or before, and that on or before date is going to be that protection period date. So remember we talked about, here's all the houses we saw, and either you're terminating the agreement or the agreement ends. And let's say it's typically, you'll see a 60, 90, I've seen 120, I've seen 360 in there. It's going to be that protection period. So I, as a buyer, if I was in a buyer's shoes, I mean, ideally, the lower the protection period is, the better it is for you as far as if you would ever go back and buy that house. That gets into wishy-washy. So majority of times I'll see like a 60 or 90 day. That's very, very, very normal. So you have a 60 or 90 days from when you terminate the agreement, that if your buyer, the one terminating this agreement, goes back and purchases that property, that agent that showed the buyer that house is now entitled for you to pay that commission. So just terminating an agreement and then going back and either having another agent help you negotiate the house, or going directly to the seller and you think, hey, I can, I'm going to cut out this agent and I'm going to save money. It actually could end up costing you more money in the long run. That's why there is a protection period. Now, with that being said, this protection period isn't from buying every single house on the MLS. It has to go with those houses that they brought to your attention. So you can think about it as if they're doing those personal videos for you, like let's say they go out and they film it and they video it and they send it to you. If they are taking you on a home tour of this house, that's all going to go into these houses. And what they need to do right here is they need to also outline what those properties are. And those are the properties that they showed you. Because at the end of the day, if you don't like your agent and you want to terminate your agreement, it has nothing to do with houses. It's great. They can send you the list of the houses. It doesn't matter. You're putting it on this agreement because you're going to go find another amazing house. And that's the best thing, is you're going to find a great house. But it does not mean that you are stuck into this relationship. Now, once again, keep in mind, read your original agreement. You need to know when your agreement ends. You need to know if there's any fees that are associated. You need to know your protection period. Let's say you terminate, you agree to terminate. What it's also going to do is, except for the promises made in this termination, so what is above in this sheet, client and broker release each other from all obligations under or related to the agreement, including but not limited to the protection period clause, which will no longer apply. So, but this is where that protection period is. It's going to be right here. So that protection period that you're saying on or before blank this date, client agrees. So that's going to be put into that amount. So, and then the broker that agent's going to sign and the client is going to sign, and then you're going to be done. And so with that, that goes to say, you are not stuck into any relationship. You are not stuck into a relationship in a buyer's rep agreement. You're not stuck into a relationship with your listing agreement. However, you need to make sure to read them both, because that's going to outline if there's any fees for terminating. It's going to outline the current length of your contract, and then also that protection period. And there's a protection period if you're also a listing, if you have a listing agent and you're listing your house, there's also a protection period. But that protection period is for those buyers that have seen your house. So for instance, I've done numerous times where a listing has not sold and someone has reached out to me afterwards. Their listing has not sold, and then another agent, or not an agent, a homeowner would reach out to me and ask me to relist their house. And that's just because the different things that we do for marketing, and then we free staging, all of that goes into it. And we've successfully sold the house. However, when they terminate that agreement, that other agent that they terminate the agreement with is going to say, hey, here's all the buyers that came and saw the house. If any of those buyers come and they write an offer on the house, then that agent may be entitled to pay if buyer comes back to. But that's something that would all be discussed. So with this being said, you are not locked into it. There is a way to get out. You just need to make sure that you know what's in your buyer's rep agreement. I know it's very scary right now because we as agents are asking people to sign this before we show a house, and that's not something we used to do. So if you're really scared and you really are really nervous about signing it, let the agent know. Be completely upfront and honest. Be like, hey, look, this new agreement requires me to sign it before you can show houses. I'm willing to sign it. However, I want it to only be for X amount of days, and we can have a trial period, see if it works out. If it works out, we can extend it. You can do amendment and you can extend it. You should not feel forced to be in a 1 year long agreement with a 180-day protection period or a 365-day protection period, which I have heard of with that. So with that, my name is Danielle Marie from the One Realty. I'm right here in Austin, Texas. If you're on right now and you have any questions, feel free to throw them up in the comment box. If you don't want to ask a question here in public, feel free to shoot me a DM, or you can give me a text message or call at my phone number, 214-802-7992. If you think this video is helpful for you or for anyone else, please respond and reply also, or retweet it. Oh my gosh, posting it again. That just shows I say age and going back. It's not really that age because it's only been less than a year. But feel free to retweet this out, repost this out, whatnot on X. But I hope you have a wonderful day, and best wishes to you in your home buying and your home selling journey.